Hi guys, welcome to Beyond the Classroom.
I'm Refinsa Pelele.
Jennifer Sejano.
Well, today we'll be talking about how socio-economic factors affect teaching in South Africa and how this impacts both teachers and learners in different communities.
For viewers at home, can you please explain the term socio-economic factor?
Well, when you talk about socio-economic factors, we are simply talking about the social and economic conditions like income, employment, poverty, and living environment.
These factors influence like school resources, teaching methods, and influence the learner's ability to succeed.
So have you guys ever gone through or experienced any kind of socio-economic factors that influence your journey?
I have. With me, my father likes to drink, so whenever he's drunk, he'd come home at night and then he'd wake my mom up and then he'd start beating my mom, telling my mom stories, and then
There must be
it got to happen like where he would wake us up and then I tell him, Daddy, tomorrow we're going to school. And it's like, you're disrespecting morning. When I go to school, I can't focus, I'm tired. It was bad, eh?
As for myself, well, I grew up in a low-income background where it meant that I would like stationery, textbooks, and even extra support at home. So it was so bad. Yes.
What's the story, Fenze?
Well, I went to a Quantal 5 school. So everyone in that school was like coming from a very well background. So I didn't have the same experience as they did. They had like
everything.
Yeah. And I would like not have stationery. I would wait for the only stationery I would have is the government station.
My grandparents, so you can imagine, they didn't go to school, so their level of education was.
No support system.
Yeah. We were staying at a shack, meaning that where we were staying there was no electricity. Meaning that we were using candles. Sometimes we would not even have money to buy that candle. Meaning that at night I was not able to study. Sometimes I would faint.
You see.
Also not eat because we did not have like the stoves to cook. So imagine if there were weathers like storms. It was really tough because we were like cooking outside for us. You see. But one thing that I've realized that most learners come from disadvantaged backgrounds.
Yes.
Meaning that thing like it's a disadvantage for them because they don't have enough resources or even support at home. And I've seen how that affects their confidence and their participation in class. Because these learners would know the answer, but they wouldn't know how to answer it because of their situation.
And guys, also like, how does these factors on the learners affect the teachers?
I think students do go through a lot like behind the scenes. So we don't really know the reason they act out and like between classes, the reason they interrupt, the reason they have attitudes and all of that. But I also think what influences all of this is the parents' enablement.
Exactly, because some of them are not even involved.
Exactly.
Parent involvement is very important. It's very important.
Sometimes a kid would act out at home
Exactly.
and wouldn't be reprimanded.
You see.
But when they get to class and they get reprimanded, now
They're starting to act out.
They start to act out, have attitudes. There is no resources, there is no like counseling.
Exactly.
And I remember sometimes maybe the parents don't have money to like, maybe that kid is mentally disturbed.
And remember that as much as we'd like to solve, we don't have that ability. Even the principal don't have that ability to choose the learner out of the school.
Exactly.
Because
And
all of us are
learning.
like
Everyone has the right to education.
Why do you think this is such a big like issue in South Africa? Why do you guys think like some schools are or some learners have it tough? Why do you think? And mostly
It's
black. Yeah, mostly black.
I think apartheid plays a very huge role in this because before apartheid, the white people were rich, having money, and then us, the black people, were poor, were chased out of good backgrounds, were put in poor conditions. So even after apartheid, we still didn't have money. There was no equality that we were promised.
Yes,
I
exactly.
think that
Even
is because
now,
of corruption.
I can see even
Yes.
now.
Yeah. Even
I
now.
can see even now.
Even now.
And also, and also corruption. Principals are also corrupt.
Yeah, the principals
The
are
money
corrupt.
can be there when then
They are used for some
Yes.
reasons.
I think the government should buy buses for learners who travel from more than 3 kilometers to get to school, so that they cannot be late and be
Oh,
tired.
there are buses.
So
It's
Not-
not all the schools.
Not
all the
everywhere,
schools,
you
yes.
see.
so that learners can get to school on time and not be exhausted at class.
I'm gonna relate it to my experience. I feel like if there were social workers, yes, they are there, but I was not aware at that time that I can. Actually, at school, no, they were not. So if they had employed a social worker at our school and then encouraged us that if you're going through something, if you're not fine, go see a counselor. Maybe I was gonna know how to deal with those situations, you know.
I also feel like the school environment itself has a role in this thing. Because if the school is under resourced, obviously the learners will be demotivated or less productive because there were no resources.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the big issue is that it affects whether kids can get to school
Or not.
stay in school or not.
Yeah,
What do you think, guys, that the government should do to solve this
I think that the government should implement extra opportunities at schools, more include music or swimming in schools. Because there are some kids that are not good in the classroom or they are good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see.
But especially at the rurals, the schools at the rural,
They
they
are
are
always
very, very, very,
neglected.
very
Because
underresourced.
the schools that have music as subjects and IT
Yeah.
and other languages besides the languages that we do in South Africa are the ones in town, people who already have a chance of making.
And also the government needs to understand that black communities are suffering. They've been
They are.
suffering. So it makes sense that they have to provide this basic needs, especially if they can't provide jobs for our parents. At least can they provide
They need
pencils
to
for
do
us?
better.
You see,
And I also think there should be after school programs for learners who are struggling.
Yes,
And for those that who do not have Wi-Fi at home, there should be also tutors for them to help them. You see.
exactly.
Yeah,
I think
after
that-
school activities to keep them out of the streets.
Yeah.
And also the community should also try and help the school, because in as much as we want the government to help, I think as the community we have to stand up and do something.
Because they say that it takes a village to raise a child.
Fix windows.
And
Maybe
Yeah.
and also gonna give NGOs where
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also-
they get them funds and
Yeah.
then they buy stationaries for these kids, they hire tutors. If you know your parent is illiterate, you just go to the
teacher.
the library, the hall, and then
Yes.
they do your homework in the afternoon. If you know you have electricity problems, you just saw that you do your homework during the day.
Yes,
Yeah.
at school. I've noticed that many schools still struggle with resources in terms of learning materials, the infrastructure, So I think the first thing that the government should make sure that all the schools are properly equipped.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because
Because resources means
the pence and clues that we get is not enough for them.
exactly.
It's not enough.
Exactly.
And some parents don't have money to buy more to add on. So you depend on them paying them.
Can I ask this question? Do you guys think that education is equal in all schools?
No.
No.
It's not.
Why do you guys say so?
The reason why it's not equal in every kind of school, I think it goes back to the teachers feeling discouraged.
Exactly.
Because the teachers back home, they have to make a plan for everything. Also, talking about the teachers, most of the teachers have people that depend on them. So their little pay that they get from school or their little salary, they have to share it with so many people. And then you have to go to a school that doesn't have any resources.
That means you
Yeah.
have to go out of
So
line.
you have to and spend your own money to
Yeah.
buy markers for white
A4
boards,
papers.
A4 papers, the orange papers for front cover files and then they're discouraged. They don't have that much enthusiastic, like,
And
because
they're always left with no choice but to provide, like you were saying, because if they don't provide those materials, then the principal, when the learners fail, they're gonna blame them. Why are the learners failing? What's wrong with you? That time there's nothing wrong with the teacher. The problem is the school is under-resourced. The kids also, their social economic background, it's lacking. They don't have any.
And they are somehow demotivated, you know.
so they go to school like stressed, and now they have to teach a grade 4 learner how to write a sentence, and the grade 4 learner doesn't know how to answer grade 7. When they get to grade 8, it's tight. Because grade 8, they're not holding your hand. High school, no one is gonna hold your hand.
You
have
are
to be able
low.
to do your own MBAs to know it.
Definitely. That was it for today, guys. That was all from us. See you on the next one. Yeah.
Bye.